Chapter 19. Anvin galloped through the stone gates of Thebes, several dozen warriors behind him, all kicking up a cloud of dust in this barren desert, struggling to breathe. It was so hot down here in the south, arid, desolate, nothing to breathe in but dust off the desert and waves of heat. Anvin had never been this far south, and he felt as if he were in a foreign country. He was amazed he was still in Escalon. It was hard to believe that, when he had set out from Volos, there had still been snow on the ground. The plains of Thebes, cut off by the mountains, had their own desert climate, and had always been a separate region in Escalon. It had been a long and hard journey, past Everfall, past the Devil's Gulch, across the endless, dusty desert of Thebes, one that would break many other men. Anvin had not stopped since Duncan had dispatched him from Andros, leading this small elite group of Duncan's best men on this perilous mission. He knew the importance of this mission, knew what was at stake, and he could not let Duncan know, not with the fate of Escalon riding on it. Joining Anvin were the elite of Duncan's men, all willing to face death unblinking, exactly what Anvin needed for a mission that would more likely end in their deaths than not. After all, taking and holding the southern gate, the portal to all of Escalon, the only thing standing between them and Pandesia, would be no small undertaking. The strip of land, the chokehold at the gate, was narrow enough for a few thousand men to hold back 1 million. But the gate would have to be secured, closed in time, and held long enough for Duncan to arrive with reinforcements. And for that, he would have to reach Fort Thebes first and rally the local soldiers. As they finally rode through the high stone arch heralding the fort, this place which lay but a mere day's ride from the southern gate, Anvin knew that Fort Thebes, as the southernmost stronghold of Escalon, was the key. Anvin glanced about and saw the harsh and bland buildings, the sand color blending in with the desert, a place of sand and wind and rock, built of squat, low buildings. It was a place with no beauty to it, as if it had all been sucked dry by the arid sand and sky. It was no place for people, a remote outpost that the warriors of Thebes had somehow managed to live in. Anvin shook his head, marveling at what strong stuff they must be made of to live such a bleak life, so cut off from Escalon. They were the last defense of the south, a place that had always remained loyal to Escalon, and sadly, it had been betrayed more than any other place when the weak king had opened the gates and surrendered Escalon. As Anvin charged through the fort with his men, passing through dusty streets, a place its residents did not even bother to embellish, he saw the faces looking back at him. Warriors lined up loosely, with their sandy hair and beards, blonde from too much sun. They all watched him skeptically. They were men who squinted into the sun, with too many lines around their eyes, who had seen it all here. They watched, silent, like the plains around them, all their hands resting on the hilts of their swords, as if equally ready to embrace or kill their fellow countrymen. Anvin continued riding to the main entry of the garrison, surprised to see there were no doors here, no gates. He rode through an open-air arch, the weather so warm here that there was never a need to close doors, a place so barren there was no need to defend it. After all, anyone approaching Thebes would be spotted 100 miles away. He rode into the inner courtyard of the fort, and as he did, he spotted more warriors standing about waiting. Their leader, Dirge, stood in their center, surrounded by dozens of his men, clearly having spotted them far off and anticipating their arrival. Anvin finally came to a stop, breathing hard, every muscle in his body hurting from the long ride with no break. He dismounted, all his men with him, and he faced Dirge. Dirge stood there, staring back, expressionless, with his sandy hair and wide jaw and broad shoulders, an inscrutable man, perhaps in his 40s. Hand on his sword as if ready to kill or embrace him. He stood there like a rock, a man who had seen it all, who trusted no one, and who did not care. A hard man for a hard place. Anvin stepped forward in the silence, wondering if Dirge remembered him. "It has been many years since we fought side by side," Anvin began. Dirge stared back silently as the wind howled through this dusty place. "The Battle of Briarwood," Dirge finally replied, his voice slow and hoarse, scratchy like the sand around him. Anvin nodded, relieved. "We killed many men," Anvin replied. "Not enough," Dirge added, meaning it. Anvin studied him in the silence. "It is curious that you have no door, no gate," Anvin replied. "What do you do when an enemy approaches?" For the first time, Dirge smiled. "We need no door," he replied, "because we crave enemies. We would enjoy being attacked. It is, after all, what we live for. Why should we cower behind gates?" Anvin smiled back, having no doubt that this warrior's words were true. "I bring urgent business from the capital," Anvin continued. Dirge shrugged. "Nothing is urgent here," Dirge replied. "And the capital's business is not my business," he concluded, his voice cold and hard. Anvin knew he was fighting an uphill battle, and that he had to phrase his next words carefully. Dirge was clearly a proud man, and not one to be controlled. "I know you are free," Anvin replied, "and that you answer to no man. It is no command I bring, but a request, one that comes from our new king." Dirge looked interested for the first time. "What new king?" he asked. "Tarnis is imprisoned," Anvin said proudly. "Duncan stands as king." Dirge seemed truly caught off guard. He leaned back and stroked his long blonde beard, thinking. "Duncan," he reflected, "a warrior I respect. A serious man. I never thought he would desire to be king." "He does not," Anvin said. "He desires only freedom for Escalon." Thebus pondered. "And what does Duncan request of us?" Dirge asked, his tone a bit more accommodating. "He wishes nothing of you," Anvin replied. "He wishes to give you something." Dirge's eyes narrowed. "And what is that?" "Freedom," Anvin replied. "The thing that no man can give you. The thing that you must take for yourself." Thebus watched him for a long time as if pondering. "And how is this new king going to give us our freedom?" he asked. "We stand but a day's ride from the gate. Beyond that gate lie millions of Pandesians. We are flanked by the Sea of Sorrow on one side, and the Sea of Tears on the other, and in those waters sit 1,000,000 more men. What freedom does he speak of?" Anvin took a deep breath, preparing. "Duncan does not cower and hide as Tarnis did," Anvin replied. "He strikes his enemies harshly and quickly. We have freed Volus and Argos and Esopus and Kos, and now Andros. Powerful cities. Half of Escalon is free, and the other half will soon be too. But we need your help to secure the southern gate. If not, we will be invaded anew by the hordes of Pandesia, and all of Duncan's efforts will be for naught." Thebus squinted, stroking his beard, then turned and walked to the edge of the courtyard, to an open arch, and looked out at the dusty plains. He stood stroking his beard for a long time in silence. Anvin came up beside him, waiting, knowing he had to give him time. "The southern gate, is it?" he said, still looking out. Anvin waited patiently as Dirge stared, clearly mulling it all over in his mind. Anvin followed his gaze, and in the distance, faintly on the horizon, He could see the golden arches of the southern gate gleaming in the sun. "A mighty thing it is," Dirge remarked, studying the horizon. "Built by our forefathers, a construction we could never manage today. The tallest and thickest structure in Escalon, built to withstand invasion, war. It has lasted for centuries, and for centuries it has kept out Pandesia." He turned to Anvin and frowned. "Until Tarnus came along," he continued. "He undid all that in a single stroke. He opened the gates without a fight, made a deal. Worst of all, he told no one. One day we awoke and found ourselves surrounded, prisoners, without even a chance to fight. He betrayed us all. He never gave us a chance to defend the gate, our sacred duty. And that is something we men of Thebes shall never give." Dirge sighed. "Now here you come, with a new king and new promises," Dirge continued. "Our men were compromised once before by politics, and I vowed never again." "You are not alone in the betrayal," Anvin replied. "Tarnus betrayed us too, and Duncan is no Tarnus." Dirge stroked his beard. "A new king, yes," he reflected. "But politics is always the same. Power is always the same. How long until your precious new king is corrupted like all the others?" Anvin frowned. "Duncan is a warrior. He has always been a warrior, and he always shall be." "Perhaps he shall," Dirge replied. "And yet, perhaps those closest to him shall not." "You shall never know until you take the chance, shall you?" Anvin pressed. He sighed, stroking his beard, pondering. A long, heavy silence fell over them, until finally Dirge turned to him. "We can take back the gate," he finally said. "That is easy enough to do. Yet holding it is another matter. When the hordes of Pandesia invade, they will come with a greater force than ever. And if Duncan and his men are not at our backs, then this time we shall all be slaughtered. All of my men, and you along with them." Anvin stepped forward and mustered all the seriousness he could. "You have my sacred vow," Anvin said. "Duncan will not betray us. He rides for us even now. When we take the gates, when Pandesia approaches, Duncan and his men will show up to help us. He has given his sacred vow, and he shall never betray us. If he does, I shall gladly be the first to die." Dirge studied him, seeming to be impressed by his seriousness. "We need your help," Anvin pressed, sensing this was the moment. "Are you with us? Are you for freedom? Or shall you squat here in this empty fort you call home and pretend to be free?" Anvin knew he was taking a chance in provoking Dirge, and yet he sensed he had to. Dirge's eyes darkened with violence as his jaw locked, and Anvin could see the anger coursing through him. But then, just as quickly, he smiled. "The gate, then," he replied, and smiled wide. "Today is as good a day to die as any."